welcome back. So last week I promised you to tell you exactly how much money we spent this year, this season, and there's a couple of extra expenses obviously, like the boat itself, which we bought last year in December. So I'm gonna skip that one out of this equation at this time and just stick to the actual cruising costs and the money we spent since moving from Turkey and going through a couple of countries all the way to northern Italy. So here we go. Basically, I cut down the expenses into a couple of categories. Food. Obviously an expense you can't really cut down on because you have to eat. Kind of makes sense, doesn't it? So we did try eat at home or on the boat as much as we could, and we did obviously go shopping to do that. And it added up to a total of 1,429 euros in 8 months. So that's about a little less than 200 euros a month for two people who were constantly on the boat, and we did have more people on occasion. So it's something like 5 euros a day. I think really not bad. You could obviously do it on less by eating rice and beans all the time. You could go a lot more fancy. Go for salmon or whatever it is. Our boat is mostly vegan because Marina is vegan, and whenever she's cooking, I'm super happy with that. All the Marina fees this year, and that includes buoys as well as all the clearing in, clearing out sort of fees, added up to 3,072 euros. Sounds like a lot. It's not really, because number one, this includes 1,900 euros of the parking fee right now where the boat is staying for half a year. So really we had it down on 1,000 euros, which still sounds like a lot, and is as well. But then we didn't spend a lot of time in marinas. One night was usually around 70 to the worst was 90 euros. In Greece it was a lot less, it was like 20 euros in Zakynthos. And then also there's things like the customs and the vignetas. So in Montenegro, for example, we had to buy a 1 month vignette for 70 euros. In Croatia, I had to pay for this like tourist fee, and you pay for each bed that you have in the boat. So that was 100 euros for 1 month. And all of those things do add up. Obviously, you can save on marina costs by simply not going into marinas, which is easy enough. Every now and then we do go there to simply fill up the water, recharge batteries, not just from the boat but also ours, because you're tied up, you know you can't drag anchor or anything, and you can just have a really good night's sleep. Communications was a total of 103 euros in 8 months. So really not that bad, and that covered all our phone bills for the entire time. Meaning we always had one SIM card in between the two of us, and we generally only used it for internet. So really it was WhatsApp, uploading to YouTube, and whenever possible we tried to sneak Wi-Fi from somewhere else, because we have the big antenna outside, and even in anchorages we can usually sneak Wi-Fi somewhere. So that saved us a lot. Doctor visits. We did not have too many, luckily, but we did visit the pharmacy every now and then. So in 8 months, all the health issues accumulated to a total of 64 euros. Not too bad, I would think. Fuel costs. Now, we spent a total of 1,027 euros this year. However, please keep in mind, we started with a boat with an empty fuel tank, which was 250 liters right away, like poof. So that's more than a quarter of the total. And the further north we got, the less we were actually able to sail, because there was simply no wind at all. We could of course drastically cut down on the fuel costs by simply sailing more, which we did try to do as much as we possibly could. And really the big motoring times were in the very end, when there was no other way, simply because there was no wind. And also when we had to meet a deadline, like we had appointments in Montenegro with dive centers, with family, with guests who were coming. So that was the only times when we actually really motored along, and that kind of cut into the fuel. Restaurant visits. added up to a total of 145 euros. I'm pretty sure I lost a few bills there, and it was actually more. Well, obviously a cost that you can cut down on and that you can really eliminate altogether, and also a cost that can easily become your biggest expense. However, we cooked at home most of the times, and we did eat out every now and then when we, well, had a busy day, long day, or just felt like treating ourselves to something nice. Like after long transit, or if you're in town anyways to emigrate, check in, check out, all of those. Yeah, we did go and have a nice dinner somewhere. And last but not least, all the boat related issues, and that included in our case a maintenance period at the beginning of the season. So paint, primer, brushes, tops, everything we needed for all that work. It also includes things like the oil for well, oiling the teak outside. It includes oil for the engine, it includes filters, it includes all of those things that you just need to keep your boat up and running. And that added up to a total of 2,041 euros in 8 months. So basically we are on a grand total of around 8,000 euros that we spent in around 8 months of cruising in the Mediterranean. So really for 1,000 euros a month, you are all the way in there and you get all things covered. However, there's obviously no limit. You can go crazy, spend every night in the marina, go for fancy dinner every night, and the budget will explode. And you could probably cut it down to about half of what we spent by never going into marina, always cooking by yourself and eating simple stuff. But I think for ourselves, we found our threshold at around about 1,000 euros a month, which is obviously not super cheap, but considering that we don't pay rent for an apartment or anything else, it is a way that we can afford to live. And also during all this time we did work on various projects, which I will talk about in all short versions next week, when we will cut down the entire season into numbers. As for this week, that was the cost. Hope you enjoyed it. If you're really curious what we did all the season, how many miles, how many countries, how many islands, all of that, check back next week. And if you want to go into more detail and learn all the detailed spots we went to, well, there's not much of a way around it, but watch all the old videos. So, hope you enjoyed. See you next week. Bye guys.